Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Soss number 100 in a US26D finish. This is a C, which means it's carded. It's September of 2021 right now, and I've been told that they're no longer packaging them in cards, so moving forward you'll be they won't be carded anymore. Card just means it's down on cardboard. It's nice display packaging, in fact, but they're changing that. You know, must not just be a lot of retail woodworking shops that need to display Soss hinges, I suppose. But that's what currently the packaging will look like. Let's take a closer look at what the actual hinge will look like, and here it is. It's a tiny little concealed hinge. And I will tell you up front, I am a unabashed advocate of Soss hinges. Some basic dimensional properties. Overall height is about 1 inch. Overall width of the body looks like it's about 5/16. Overall depth looks like it's about 7/16. Now, those are the dimensional properties. This is what it looks like. Question becomes is, what would you use this for? Why would you be looking at this hinge, and what might you be considering using it for? Let's talk about that now. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Now you've landed on this video, what are you using this for? Well, something concealed, obviously. You want to be able to have something, a door, a window, a lift top to a sewing machine, some sort of furniture application, you know, maybe a doggy door, you know, something where you want the hinge to be concealed. The Soss hinge does that, and does so very elegantly, and has done so for several decades. And I'm a fan of this hinge unapologetically, because I believe it's elegant. I believe it's best in class overall. It is effective, it's easy to use, it's extremely durable, reliable, predictable, dependable. And there are several companies, there's a handful of companies that I can name that make a similar type hinge, and they will give you a 3-way adjustability on them as well. They're 4 times the cost sometimes. And I just don't see the advantage to spending all the extra money. And I'm also highly suspicious of a long-term effect of having the adjustment, your X and Y and Z adjustment, those screws getting loose, the adjusting screws, a door all of a sudden not exactly where it needs to be, even though you can adjust that. There are people that won't attempt Soss because it's too difficult. It's not. The first time you're looking at it, you're like, whoa, that's above my pay grade. I felt that way too. And then I did the first one, and I said, well, that was pretty easy. That's exactly what I probably did. Then there are people who will not even remotely consider using the hinge because they are not willing to try or learn, and they depend on that adjustability. Then there are people who say, who believe, like as I do, I think I'm in the minority position, they wouldn't spend all that extra money. And I think really the problem is I'm intimidated by installing or mortising for it, which means I'm going to go with a product that will allow me to have some margin, have some goof off margin with exactly where I've placed it. But the bottom line is, if you locate and mortise the Soss hinge exactly where it needs to go, it's going to go exactly there, and it's going to stay there. That's what I like about it. You can buy a Soss hinge, not the 100, which is obviously for cabinet use, but they're 216, they're 218, they're 220, the 416, 418, 420. They're Hercules style for hanging full-size doors. Obscenely heavy doors, over 1,000 pounds they can do. Soss now has a wide throw version of their hinge as well, which is obviously an Achilles heel, so to speak, of the Soss line, is that you really can't get out and around a casing or a trim condition with a Soss product because of that vertical axis of pivoting. That pin that's right at the tip of my finger, as we go from closed to open, you can see how that pin floats through the opening. Okay, you only have so much there to deal with, meaning you're not going to be able to get out and around. You can see just with my thumb placed in there, I can barely get the hinge all the way open. And if this was an actual door, the door wouldn't even open. So that's the one downside of Soss, in that you can't have a reveal greater than a certain amount. And that happens to be the E dimension when it comes to Soss hinges, and the E dimension is on the template. But prepping for them is top of the door to the center line, placing it within the rabbet, how deep it is in the rabbet of the frame, and then correspondingly on the door. And then making two preparations. Basically, it's going to be this body preparation, which is just here. And then the plate preparation, which is the body plus this. So it's really easy. I mean, gosh, it's easy. There are templates. You would use a router, which makes it even easier. And the elegant payoff is that they're concealed. When that door is closed, you have no idea how that door has been hung. You know it's a concealed hinge if you know hinges, but you don't know what type. And they're awfully inexpensive for what you get. So this happens to be in the 26D Satin Chrome finish. There are steel and zinc components to this. Let's switch now to the screen view and let's take a deeper dive into the hardware itself. It will come with a total of 8 wood screws. That's what that is here. Let's switch now to the screen view and let's take a closer look at all the supporting resources. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Here is the item that we are looking at. Let's take a look. Speaking of looking at, let's take a look at some images that I have. Here's the packaging, at least currently. Tamper-proof. Yeah, that's true. When that door is closed, you don't see anything. There's a close-up of the contents of the package, with the exception of the installation instructions that are back there, but I'll show those to you. Those laminated pieces of steel that are held together with a rivet. The body is zinc, but the hardware that does the work is steel. And just a variety of close-up photos of the unit. From what I understand, the engineering is in Indianapolis or somewhere in the Midwest or the greater Midwest. And manufacturing, I think, is done in the Philippines, somewhere in Asia. That I know. Cross-section view, so to speak. Just showing you the laminated pieces of steel is the point of this picture. And then the fasteners. Let's turn that off. Okay, now the extended description. Soss Invisible Hinge Model 100 is ideal for use in wood and metal applications. If you want machine screws, simply indicate in the comment field that you want machine screws. Very unlikely that you're going to need machine screws. The Model 100 is made of zinc and steel material. This cabinet-style hinge will provide superior appearance and durability. Hinges are found in many applications where flush fit, compact size, and smooth operation are necessary features. They should also say when heavy loads need to be accommodated. You know, obviously the 101 is not going to be a heavy load type of hinge, but it was said by the person who basically invented the Soss hinge that he said, I don't care how heavy the door is, keep throwing Soss hinges at it. And I have most certainly found that to be reasonably true. I've hung very heavy doors on Soss hinges. A 307/16 gauge with 3/4 granite that's been applied to the push side of the opening. Pretty heavy door. Not a problem at all. 100 series, satin chrome is this finish. There are other finishes. Let's take a quick look at other finishes. Okay, so satin chrome and US 4 only, which is satin brass. So just the two options. I would have guessed differently on that. Minimum material thickness is 1/2 inch. So, and we're going to look at that in a moment when we look at the nomograph is what it's really called. But you start out with Soss hinges by saying, how thick is my material? Then you go up to you go up in terms of hinge size until you hit but don't exceed the maximum thickness. Wood screws are 5 by 3/4. These are your drill sizes. This is a wire index size. If you're drilling softwood or hardwood, the larger the number in these drill index sizes, the smaller the hole, the smaller the diameter. You're going to want to drill a slightly larger hole for hardwoods. Machine screws would be 440 if you had those. Machine screws not included. Carded, 2 per card. When you buy one, you're buying a pair inherently. Now, there are several links down below. Before we do that, this is the technical drawing that you will see elsewhere, but it gives the overview of the basic dimensions. Your A dimension, which is 3/8. Your B dimension is 9/32. Your C dimension is 1 inch. Your D dimension is 3/32. So when those doors are brought, when the door and frame is brought parallel to each other in the open position, 3/32 of an inch is your reveal that's there. Wouldn't be proper to call it a reveal. That's just that dimension between the two. The E dimension I had mentioned, 3/32 of an inch. That means that you cannot place this hinge any further in. You must have not more than 3/32 of an inch right here. The F dimension is the height of the body at 3/8. The G is 1/32 when they're closed. H, 15/32, and then the I dimension, 15/64. You need all that for your mortising purposes, and actually you need nothing other than C, A, I, F, and E. The other dimensions you don't need, but they're giving that to you so that you might ask, what's that supposed to look like when it's done? Well, there it is. Hinge, we'll just go through these, and we'll go through them just in no particular order. Hinge sizing chart. This is what they refer to as the nomograph. And up here is where you select your minimum door thickness. I'm going to rotate this just to look at that chart. How thick of material? Okay, so if you're dealing with 1/2 inch, you can do a 100 or a 101. So let's rotate that back the correct way. And the way that this works is, how wide is your door and how heavy is your door? Make a pencil mark on there and then draw that line straight up and then go straight across. However that is. And that's how many of that hinge you'll use based on the width and the weight of the door. Okay. So the 100, the 101, the 204 and below, the 208 and below, that's for thinner material, cabinet material. If you're doing full-size doors, you'll be dealing with 216s, 218s, possibly 220s. The 218 is the very common hinge that you'll use for 1 3/4 thick solid core work. So this is where you start by determining what hinge do I want to use if you're using this standard style of Soss hinge. There are others, and I'll show you that in the catalog. Cased jam detail. This just is a cross-section, a drawing that they've shown, giving you an idea of what this material will look like when it's installed in a cased opening frame. The point is that this casing that's applied here kind of gives you an idea that you're only going to get to 90 degree before you'll start to have conflict. But let's look at another drawing for that. Clearance detail. Clearance detail goes through all of the scenarios with material that's applied to the face, not applied to the face. The bottom line is, so that you don't exceed the E dimension, you'll have no trouble with this swinging 180 degree, like this. And it's because of what you see here. That gets incredibly close. So now, based on this drawing, you can understand if you violate the size of the E dimension, which I think was 3/32, that's not much, your door is not going to open. Or you're going to have to heavily chamfer that back. And they obviously do that up over here just to get it to 90 degree. Because it may not be clear, but the concept here is this is your E dimension. That's your E dimension. That exceeds your E dimension. So you can chamfer that all back and get to 90 degree. So that would, in theory, work. Handy document. When you call up Soss and ask them for clearance details, they're just going to say, what's your email? And they're going to send this to you. So that's why that's there. Template. This is everything that you need in terms of installing the material or mortising for it. As I had said earlier, you only needed those dimensions. So when I mortise for this material, it's top of the door to the center line of my prep, or to the top of the prep, whatever you're more comfortable with. I go to the center line. And you don't exceed the E dimension, which is your 3/32nd, pardon me, it's 3/32nd right here. So now you know where to place it. Obviously, with this style hinge, you're going to have a 0 inset installation. And what that means is the door is going to be flush with the face of the frame. You know, just it's flush. It's not set in 3/32nd of an inch. If you were to do that, you're going to have a problem. You know, a hollow metal door is going to be inset into its hollow metal frame. An aluminum door can be flush or inset. A wood door can be flush or inset in its frame. This is really assuming a flush condition. So the template, don't exceed 3/32nd for your E dimension. Then all you really need to know is the height. How thick is the body, which they have here at 15/32, so you're going to go, you know, a ½ inch deep. That's 3/8, so you might go 7/16. Then you're going to route out the plate. So this is called the body prep. That's what I call, and this is called the plate prep. So I like to do the body prep first. So I'm going to do a prep that's going to be just heavy on 3/8. The width, which was 3/8 of an inch wide, 3/8 of an inch tall. That depth is 15/32 overall depth. Now you're going to have this prep. Then you're going to do the 1 inch tall. And again, the face plate of that is 3/8. So you could use a 3/8 diameter router. That would be exquisite for this. And you're going to make that small little path right there. And your work will be done. Pretty easy. That E dimension forces that same dimension on the other side. The only offsetting that you'll do if you're doing a cabinet door and it's inset, a cabinet door that's going to be inside of an opening, you know, you're going to have a different vertical height dimension from the underside of the header to the center of the hinge than you would on the door, whatever that gap is from the top of the door to the underside of the header. But other than that, that's all you need to do. And it's because of that approach of what we just went through that I say to people, this is easy. Don't be intimidated by Soss. If you can prep for this, there's not much more that's difficult beyond this in the world of woodworking when it comes to builder's hardware. Overhead concealed holders require 3 steps. This only requires 2. Olive knuckle hinges can bake your noodle. I know it did mine the first time I mortised for those. But I studied it for an hour, I think, and when I put my router on the door, I was confident of what I was doing, and it worked perfectly. Do a reality check. Get a couple of 2x4s. Make sure they can hinge together, and that's how you'll be sure of this. The last detail that's here is our hinge location. Hinge location is the manufacturer's document that says, hey, here's how we would have you locate these hinges. With a 101 or these small hinges, your 204 and smaller, put them where you think makes sense. It's likely that the absolute weight capacity of the hinge will far exceed what you're actually going to hang on it. I think that where that really comes into play is when you're dealing with doors that are 200 pounds, 300 pounds, things of that nature. Then you really need to be mindful of where you're installing those hinges. And the factory, as you'll note, does not have you install them in the location that might be considered standard. 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom. That's pretty typical. That is a very European thing to do, maybe everywhere outside of the United States or even North America. 70% of the weight of the door is held by that top hinge, so it goes without saying that it would be logical that having more hinges towards the top is really where you want the hinges. You might want to check with your door manufacturer to make sure that if you're laying it out this way, that it doesn't violate any warranty that they might have. I would definitely look into that first if you have a warped door situation. But again, this hinge location is really for 216s, 218s, 220s, and the heavier hinges as well. Okay, you're going to throw 6 Soss 220 hinges, you're dealing with a door that's hundreds of pounds in weight. Now, there's a link below this video as seen here to the manufacturer's page, and from here you can pull up that nomograph that I mentioned earlier. It's here if you wanted to see it alone. Other encyclopedic documents are here, but the manufacturer's full line catalog is here. And I would recommend a tour into this catalog. because it will allow you to review lots of interesting items. And what I did was I searched right to the back of the catalog, and they do have a router guide and template system for doing this material. The smallest unit they have is for a 101. I don't know. Let's back up. The difference between a 100 and a 101. Oh yeah, it is different. So the 101 is going to be slightly larger. Okay, so if you want a kit, oh yeah, it's way larger. It's 1 11/16. I looked at that and thought it was 1 1/16. So be mindful if you're looking for a kit or a guide or a template system for Soss hinges. The smallest they get into is a 101. This is a very straightforward kit. These units are attached together with these aluminum angles and connectors, and you put all that together and you just have at it, just like this gentleman is right here. Back to that chart I found, which happens to be on page 38, that shows all those other hinges that I had mentioned, and then the bigger ones on the next page. But as we start at the beginning of the catalog and you scroll through, there's lots of options here in terms of concealed hinges. The first part of the catalog is this push-pull latch, which I've never sold any of. They have their Hercules model that's here, which we'll get to. They have a self-closing version that's here. They can do stainless steel, they can do fire-rated, they can do power transfer. If you want to hang a door that's 1,000 pounds, they've got a hinge for that. They're Hercules. They have those wide throw hinges that I had mentioned earlier. Those are relatively new. Again, fire-rated. Stainless steel, again, power transfer. Metal cabinet applications. Lots of neat stuff. Before you spend $200 a hinge on a Tectus, Sugatsuni, McKinney, I think there's somebody else. Take a look at the Soss hinge. Barrel hinges are nice for furniture applications. You don't need to spend all that extra money, in my opinion, because it's easy. Door holders are common. They're MDH, magnetic door holder. We sell those. You'll see them in changing rooms as well. Along with the guides, they'll sell you the bit, the guide for your router, and the nut for the guide. If you're doing a hollow metal door, I've done 12-gauge steel doors, 14-gauge steel doors on 12-gauge frames with Soss hinges. Here it is. The manufacturer just had me order these plates for them. It was cheaper than them making them. Then that nomograph again. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that, you know, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Hopefully my fondness and appreciation for the Soss product line has come through. Extremely helpful folks over at Soss. Extremely helpful. A brilliant hinge. I use them every chance that I can. In terms of concealed material, they don't work in all applications. That 16-gauge steel door with the 3/4 granite, that couldn't be applied to the pull side because we would have violated the E dimension. It was being applied to the push side. There was granite on the wall, granite on the doors. That door swung in. Not a big deal at all. The Soss hinge, that was 25 years ago. That door's probably not still there because it's a mall, and they probably remodeled that entire area 3 times over by now. But amazing. That hinge will last centuries. Don't hesitate to use Soss. If you have any questions about mortising for the material, call us with your order number. I will personally walk you through it. My name is Rich, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. Thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.